Welcome back to another episode of How to Become an Obstacle Buster. I'm your host, Warren Wandling. If this is your first time listening or you've been part of our community for a while, thank you for tuning in today. We all have dreams and we have obstacles in our life, and my hope for you is that you overcome your obstacles while you're pursuing your dreams. I have a phenomenal guest with me today, Aaron Walker. Aaron Walker has founded more than a dozen companies over the past 41 years. He attributes much of his success to having surrounded himself with his mastermind counterparts. Aaron spent a decade meeting weekly with Dave Ramsey, Dan Miller, Ken Abraham, and 5 other amazing entrepreneurs. Aaron is the founder of Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind that now hosts 15 groups with national and international members. Aaron is the author of View from the Top, a must-read to fully understand how to live a life of success and significance. Also the founder of the Mastermind Playbook, an incredible resource for starting, running, and scaling masterminds. Aaron lives in Nashville, Tennessee with his wife, Robin, of 40 years, and has 2 incredible daughters and 5 beautiful grandchildren. Welcome to the show, Aaron.
Hey, Warren, how's it going, buddy? Thank you for having me on your show.
Hey, thank you. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I know, AKA those that really know you well, that you go by Big A.
You can't mess up Big A, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yes, people do call me Big A.
I know, and there's probably a great story behind that. But on this podcast, we talk about how to overcome your obstacles to achieve success. So we provide strategies, tips, resources to help sales professionals and entrepreneurs to do just that. So to start that conversation today, as the founder and president of View from the Top, tell us about your business.
Well, I appreciate that, Warren. I'll go back and give you just a little history if I could do that, give a little bit more context to who we are. I'm a native Nashvilleian, Nashville, Tennessee. I've been here almost 60 years now. We're about 3 generations deep here. We've owned a number of businesses over the course of my 41-year entrepreneurial history. And about 8 years ago, I retired. I thought I was going to retire. And some of the mastermind members that I was a member of suggested that I coach. And so I started coaching a couple of young entrepreneurs and started doing podcast interviews. And God just sent us these amazing people, and he just kept sending them. And I'm like, man, I can't coach this many people. And so I'd been involved in a mastermind for decades, and I said, I know how to do that well. And so I started a mastermind group. And today we have participants from 7 different countries. We have 15 mastermind groups, and I get to help people enjoy how to live a very successful and significant life.
Wow, that's really impactful. I know from reading your book, which we'll get into later, that the mastermind has been really pivotal for you in developing those relationships with men that are interested in growing in success.
Yeah, no question about that. I mean, we have to be involved in community. God created us to be there rather than in isolation, because isolation, as you know, is the enemy to excellence. And if you really want to take your life to the next level, we've got to surround ourselves with very competent people that can help us get there.
Yeah, excellent. So what do you think is the greatest obstacle that your clients encounter?
You know, Rory Vaden is a friend of mine, and he wrote a book called Procrastinate on Purpose. And in the book, he talks about work-life balance is a myth. And he taught something very profound. He said that we need to be very out of balance in the right places. And so we need to really prioritize our priorities and spend an inordinate amount of time on a few things so that we can be that inch wide and a mile deep, rather than an inch deep and a mile wide that Greg McEwen talks about in his book, Essentialism. And so our clients really struggle with time management. They also struggle with how to be productive in their community in a significant way, not just a successful way. And that's why I wrote the book, View from the Top, to help people understand how they too can live this life of great success, which I enjoy doing. And I know many of you do as well, but don't forget the significance piece.
So within helping that to bridge that gap, because that time management and productivity is really key. And I know a lot of listeners struggle with that area, trying to focus on the right activity. But is there one strategy that you use to help your clients focus on significance during that journey as they master the art of time management?
Well, Warren, I don't know that any of us ever master it. The truth be told, we've owned 14 businesses now over the course of these 4 decades. And there's seasons in those businesses that disallow you to prioritize your priorities and spend the amount of time that you want on one specific activity because life throws you a curveball sometimes. You just can't map it out perfectly. But what I have found to be true is that if I strategically map out what I would like to do, first and foremost, to have a mission, vision, and values. And it wasn't until I really did that I understood exactly what I wanted to accomplish. A good friend of mine named Scott Beebe, he now leads our team every Monday morning. He owns a company called My Business on Purpose. And in that, we strategically try to outlay a plan that we're going to focus on. Another friend of mine, Brian Moran, wrote the 12-week year. And Brian really helps us to understand how we can be proactive in the lead indicators and the tasks that we do and follow those lead indicators to produce great results for the lag indicators and the things that we're trying to accomplish. So, Warren, I would just say that we have to be very intentional, we have to be very focused, and we have to have a plan in order to get where we want to go.
What was the key strategy that contributed to your success building your businesses? I guess you've done 14 businesses over the course of your career.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a single strategy that you can overlay onto every business. Every business is different, but the one thing that I would say is provided the most dividends for us is building relationships very intentional. And relationships are paramount in our success. And a lot of people today hide behind the screen. They're solopreneurs, they're location independent entrepreneurs, and they don't have to really associate with many people oftentimes. But what I have found, Warren, that relationships trump everything. And it opens doors that you wouldn't have otherwise. It allows you to leverage the audiences of the people that you build those relationships. I've been on numbers of podcast interviews over the past 6 years. And as a result of building these great relationships, I'm able to be on podcasts like yours. And without building those relationships, that's just not possible. So in summary, I would have to say that the key strategy is building very strategic relationships.
Yeah, I really love that strategy because it takes it offline. Because you're right, there's so many people that are just working behind the screen, but it's really important of taking that relationship off the screen and making sure that there's a true connection.
You know what I hear, though, Warren, is everybody says, I don't have time. And I would just suggest you don't have time not to do it.
So how do you overcome obstacles then on a day-to-day basis?
Well, it goes back to the 12-week year. I have a plan. I know exactly what I'm going to do each and every day. And I don't have to decide, well, should I do this or that? I've predetermined what the objective is, and I've backed up on a 12-week period. And we do this 12-week year every 12 weeks. And we do that to accomplish one or two main objectives. And I don't get distracted by the shiny object syndrome. I don't have the squirrel syndrome. It's just I know exactly what it is that I want to accomplish, and I implement that strategy and do those tasks every single day.
Excellent. So in your book titled View from the Top, in chapter 7, you share a question that you regularly get asked as a speaker. You believe this is the best question to ask anyone who has any level of success. Can you share that question with us and how you'd answer it?
Yes. What would you have done earlier in your career if you had another opportunity to do that? People like to talk about themselves, and we need to divert the questions more so to the other person rather than yourself.
Oh, excellent. If you were sitting across the table from a sales professional or entrepreneur, what bit of advice would you offer him or her from your experience in launching your 14 businesses?
Well, it just depends on what they were trying to accomplish. I can't just overlay what your objectives are and what you would like to accomplish yourself. I think the candidness and the genuineness, being transparent and authentic, really diving into offering value, stop trying to make the sale and try to add value. And every time I've been able to do that, the sales just come naturally. So I would say take the focus off yourself, look outward, be a giver and not a taker.
Yeah, I really like that idea, is taking the your eyes off of yourself, so it's not about you, and then continuing adding value to the people that you're connecting with, because then that builds that relationship that you were talking about before in a key strategy. Building relationships are key. So if you're adding value to them, then they feel like they can build that strong relationship. And I think the other part of that is that builds that know, like, and trust that's so important in that relationship. So if you were in that process of building value, do you find that there's like a number of connections that you need to make during the day of building value, or how do you know that there's actually that connection?
No, I don't think there's a number at all. I've spent my whole life building relationships. Every day I'm writing emails or sending text messages or doing videos. I'm inviting people to be on my podcast, or I'm inviting people to enter into a conversation. I'll give you an example. I was connected with a senior editor of Inc. magazine recently just to build a relationship, and had no intentions whatsoever in being featured in their magazine. And 45 minutes into the introduction, they were asking me, could I feature your new product in Inc. magazine? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, sure you can. That would be amazing. And it was only because I was willing to take the time to invest in building that relationship. See, we've got to take our mind off of being so intentional to be the recipient of whatever it is that you're dealing with. What we need to do is focus on getting into the life of the other person, getting to understand what they're trying to accomplish. How can I add value to them? How can I walk alongside of them and edify and encourage them? What is it that I could do, or who is it that I could introduce them to so they can accomplish their goals and dreams? And when you do that, Warren, it's just natural that the person wants to help you. We need to be the light. We need to be the person that is there to help other people, not to suck the life out of the room and only build a relationship to where you can get something. People see that a mile away. We want to be that person that is genuine, authentic, and transparent and vulnerable to the other people so that we can help them accomplish what they want. So don't look at building relationships as a strategic thing. Just be very intentional about it, and the natural, great fruits of that will come.
Yeah, that's really good. In building those relationships is making sure that that's the authenticness, I think, is really key for our listeners, to making sure that they're focused on truly building relationship in the presence of truly getting to know that individual and helping them develop that dream, instead of having that idea that you're going to hope that you make a sale or move them in that sales process. Because you're right, I think people definitely identify with that, and they can sense that, instead of if you're really being authentic. Within, there's a great Jim Rohn, as you know, is a business philosopher, and he's known for saying a great quote is that you're the average of 5 people who you spend the most time with. How has this concept impacted your career?
Well, that's a very true statement, and I don't know that there's a more profound statement ever made. We are the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with, and that's proven to play and pay great dividends over the course of my life, both personally and professionally. If you'll look around, those listeners that are listening to this today, and you look back over the amount of time you've spent with the average of the 5 people, you're going to be within 10 to 20% of the average income level of the people that you hang with. Now, I'm not saying that you just have to go hang with rich people, but those persons didn't get wealthy by hanging out with people that had no source of income and no interest in going forward. And so I really deliberately choose the people that I hang out with, because I do want to be the average of people that have been successful to some degree. Now, you can couch being successful in many ways, not just financially. I want to hang out with great mentors that have great wisdom. And so I search for people that have great wisdom. I do want to do well financially, so I try to find myself in rooms with people that have had great levels of success because they obviously are doing something right, and you can learn from that. So I would just caution everyone to be very careful about who you spend the most time with.
So do you ever evaluate that list of the people that you're connecting with to be able to, like, if to maybe upgrade that list?
Yeah, well, certainly you're always looking to maximize your time because time is the most valuable commodity we have, and there's not any more of it, and you can't replace it. And so you've got to spend it wisely. So we're certainly evaluating the places that we spend our time. We never feel like that we're too good to be with anybody or that we're better than someone else, but we do want to maximize our life. This is not a trial run. This is the only one we've got, and we want to maximize that. So we're constantly evaluating the places and the people that we spend our time with.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. So I believe that success leaves clues, and one of those clues are the books and authors that successful people read. So what are some authors that have influenced you in your business?
Oh, there's so many. We read one or two books a month, and so we're constantly reading amazing books. When I joined, Dave Ramsey invited me to join his mastermind group decades ago, and we spent about 10 or 12 years meeting in his office every week. And when I first started, I said, I'm not a big fan of reading. And he said, I don't care, get over it. He said, you don't wake up smarter. You've got to really fill your mind with great information, and so you need to start reading more. Well, since then, we've read hundreds, if not thousands, of books over the course of the years. And in the mastermind groups that I facilitate now, iron sharpens iron. We have a theme, and we have a book that coincides with that theme every month, and we have questions that we ask related to the reading assignment for that week, every single week in our mastermind groups. And it just helps to catapult you to a different level. I'll spend an hour or two most days reading, and it's the way I start every morning. And I just want to encourage your listeners today to pick up that habit if you're not, and really be diversified and well trained and start reading a lot of books.
Do you have one book that you're currently reading that you're enjoying more than another book?
There's a book Tim Moore wrote called The Generation Z Unfiltered, and it just hit the market literally, and it's helping you to understand Generation Z, which are called homelanders, right behind the millennials. And the reason I'm reading the book is I want to prepare for the next book we're going to read in our mastermind. But the second reason is I have 5 grandchildren that fall into that Generation Z, and I want to understand them better. And I've got a tendency sometimes to make judgments prior to being fully educated, and I want to give them a fair chance to really prove themselves, and I've got to understand them better. The world they live in is not the world I grew up in, and I want to be able to communicate with my grandchildren. So, yeah, I would suggest highly reading Generation Z Unfiltered.
It sounds like a great book. That's definitely going to be added on my list. I know that generation, they're the world of distraction. That's what they grew up in. And so it's really important to understand how they tend to communicate and how they like to be communicated. And you're right. If we didn't grow up in that generation, sometimes we can't have that same perspective. But I think it's so important to be able to seek to understand and then be understood.
Yeah, and I want to give them every benefit of the doubt, and I want to understand the world that they're growing up in.
So what does the future hold for you? Aaron, any special projects that you're working on?
Yes, thank you, Warren. I appreciate you asking that. A lot of people call me all the time and say, Big A, how in the world are you scaling these masterminds? I mean, now you have 150 people in 15 different groups. How do you manage that? And they started hiring me to train them and teach them how they could start a mastermind group. Warren, are you in a mastermind group personally?
I am, yes.
Yeah, and I bet you could give testament to the fact that it's radically transformed your life as well. And I'm trying to teach people the benefit of being in these mastermind groups. And so many podcast hosts and coaches and other folks have said, hey, I would like to make this a part of my business, but I don't really know how. And so because of my level of experience in mastermind groups, I created the Mastermind Playbook. And in this, we teach you how to start, grow, and scale masterminds. There's no stone left unturned. We have 30 professional videos. We have over 90 worksheets, templates, and tools that we work you through. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go to the mastermindplaybook.com. And I would love to train you as well how you can start, grow, and scale masterminds.
Yeah, well, excellent for sharing that. Masterminds, you're right, is definitely an impact in your business. And it's sometimes when you approach their first mastermind, you don't realize how it's going to leverage and really impact your business. But those relationships and that synergy that's created in a mastermind is where the leverage comes from in reference to moving your business forward. I know sometimes as men, sometimes we like to retreat and thinking that you can do it all on your own, but that's where the secret is. Don't you agree? Of the mastermind is being able to connect with someone else that's successful to help them move their business to the next level.
Warren, not just their business, but their personal life as well. We do about 60% professional, 30% personal, about 10% spiritual, all the things that everyone deals with. And as we said earlier, the people that you're around really impact your life. We only have one set of filters, one life experience. We can only see things one way, regardless of how hard you try. You can only see things from your perspective. And the most valuable asset and tools that Mastermind can give you is a new perspective. And oftentimes when you adopt that, it can really catapult your goals to the next level.
Yeah, excellent. I agree with you in reference to it's balanced. It's not just focused completely on business, but there are 6 other areas in your life that needs to be focused on as well. So if our listeners wanted to connect with you, I know we have the mastermind link that we'll make sure that that's in the show notes, but is there any other way that you would like them to be able to reach out and connect?
Well, thank you, Warren. I appreciate you having me, first of all, as your guest. Hopefully, your members gain a bit of value from being here, understanding why you should be in community, why you should be around other folks. But if you'd like to reach out to me, you can go to viewfromthetop.com, or you can reach me also at the mastermindplaybook.com.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you again, Aaron, for sharing your strategies, tips, and resources, helping our listeners to break through their obstacles to achieve success.
Thanks a lot, Warren. Have a good day, buddy. We'll see you.
Great. I appreciate it. Well, this is your host, Warren Wandling, saying, make it a great day.